Hi, my name is Paul. Welcome to the first recording in a series on creating a Fantasy Grounds extension. This video is the introduction to the series. I will basically be talking about what I'm working on, the progress that I've made so far, and what we'll be doing in this video series. So to get started, I decided to create a Fantasy Grounds extension to support journey rules, which in some of my games I've been playing Adventures in Middle-earth, which has a whole section on journeying. So basically like travel segments in between cities or other notable locations where you don't want to go into excessive detail about what's going on, but you still want to have some highlights of events that occur. I've also adapted that to my D&D 5e campaign with some changes to the AME rules. But since I've taken up using Fantasy Grounds to run games with this whole coronavirus situation, I wanted to get some mechanics into the software that support journeys, so I decided to make an extension. I've already actually started the extension. There's a little bit of progress. I haven't gotten very far, and I thought during that it might be interesting for other people to maybe tag along during the exploratory process. I've never done this before, so some of it is developing while discovering. That suits my style of learning, and I imagine there are others who are the same way, so I figured maybe this might help some other people out. So because this project has already been started, I thought it would be appropriate to go over some of the things that I've actually already done. So first thing I did was create a work directory and a Git repository. I also have a GitHub project, which I'll discuss the details in a minute. But because it's been said that it is the great artist's steal, I have taken the liberty of setting up what I call a staging area that contains a whole bunch of Fantasy Grounds extensions, modules, rule sets, all exploded in. So basically, the zip file is exploded into its contents of everything that I have installed and sitting around to use as a reference point. The reason for that is there are a lot of great examples of how to get certain things done. You can pull up one of these extensions or modules in Fantasy Grounds itself, see what the UI layout looks like, and then cross-reference that with the XML and the Lua code and see how a particular widget is on the screen, what kind of XML you have to create to put something on there, and how to make it function, and what code to put behind it to make it work right. Anyway, so I've got a whole bunch in here. So for example, just to look at some of this, we can pull up the Dungeons and Dragons, no, sorry, 5th edition rule set. So we can pull that up. It's a rule set, so it's a pack file. Anyway, those are all here as a reference point, ready to scour through and copy liberally. As for the GitHub project, I've created a repo on GitHub. You can see here it's under an organization that I have called Sweet RPG. And I've created the project for a Fantasy Grounds Journey extension, set the description, whatnot. I've got some things committed. I've been working on this for a couple days now. Got a README file with some notes that I made for myself. Stuff like that. Set up the repository to use Git Flow. So I've got a master and develop branch. Some of that might be interesting, some maybe not. One other thing I wanted to discuss was the tools that I'm using for this. Of course, Fantasy Grounds have a campaign specifically created for development purposes. Has very few things loaded in it. Got some iTerm windows set up with my code. My preferred editor for stuff like this is Visual Studio Code. So I've got that set up. Got the whole project opened up here. I've got a couple files opened up for the UI. And I'm also using SourceTree as my Git client. Anyway, so those are the tools. The next video, we'll probably start digging into actual coding. A lot of it will be very exploratory. Imagine I'll keep the mic going for a while and then do some editing just to get it down to an interesting, not tedious length, and just cover the highlights of what's going on. So that's it for this introductory video. I hope you stick around for the rest of the series, and we'll see you on the next one.